Welcome to the BMW M3 CS Touring, and it's a car that I'm immediately suspicious of, to be honest, because at £121,000, it's £36,000 more than the regular M3 Competition Touring, which for me is one of the best all-round performance cars you can currently buy. So the question is, what does this do that's so much better? To find out, I'll be driving the M3 CS Touring both on-road and track, with the latter being done at the UK's fastest circuit. But that's in a bit. First, allow me to explain just where this car sits in the BMW M hierarchy. So while the M4 has a super track-focused CSL version, the M3 Saloon and M3 Touring top out at the CS spec. Now CS stands for Competition Sport, and it's supposed to be a bit of a sweet spot because it gives a bit more track focus but without going absolutely crazy. To that end, the M3 CS Touring keeps things subtle on the styling front with a few small differences. The most obvious being the careful use of carbon fibre reinforced plastic, or CFRP. You'll see it forming the bonnet, front splitter, front air intakes, exterior mirror caps and rear diffuser, while also making an appearance inside on the M carbon bucket seats, paddles and trim and centre console. That obviously contributes to a bit of weight saving, so all in, the DIN weight is now 1,850 kilograms, 15 kilograms less than the standard M3 Competition Touring. Other styling changes include a red contour on the gloss black spoiler at the back. There's also a frameless M kidney grille with more red contouring, and the M3 CS badges are now finished with a nice glossy black look, and they've also got, you've guessed it, red contouring. Forged double-spoke M-Lite alloys are standard in either gold bronze or matte black and measure up at 275/35 19-inch at the front and 285/30 20-inch at the rear, aka the same as the regular competition car. Also, I love the LED icon headlights which glow yellow. That's an awesome touch. And underneath the bonnet, which will magically open like so, you can see the cast aluminium M strut brace, which improves body rigidity, and also, you can't actually see it here, but the engine mounts have had their spring rate stiffened up too. On the road, that sort of thing probably won't make a huge amount of difference, but out here at Thruxton on a very, very high-speed track, you suddenly start to really appreciate that level of detail. I always forget just how fast this circuit is. It doesn't have any conventional straights, but all the corners, apart from the two chicanes, are just so quick. But because of that, you've got to be really precise with your mid-corner and your exits, otherwise you'll just scrub off speed and you'll be losing it all the way around the lap. Honestly, this thing gathers speed so quickly. It's got the same S58 3-litre twin turbocharged straight six as the M3 Competition Touring, but it's got a bit more power out of it. Turning up the turbos and remapping the engine's ECU means an extra 19 brake horsepower to make 542 in total. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 3.5 seconds, and 0 to 124 miles an hour is done in just under 12. Along with the changes to the drivetrain, BMW has also worked to make the sound a little bit better, and that's always a tricky thing in 2025. So what we've got is a lightweight custom exhaust with a titanium silencer. And I'm not going to say it's night and day different, but there is a bit more of a crispness to it, a bit more of a rasp, which is what you want in an M car. I mean, there's clearly sound coming into the cabin artificially, but it's a good mechanical noise. All in, the drivetrain is hugely enjoyable. It's not just brutally effective, but it's responsive and exciting too. What's more, the 8-speed ZF gearbox, controversial when BMW fitted it to this generation M3, has clearly benefited from the software upgrades for the CS. It doesn't feel out of place on track like it used to on early G80 M3s. idea of the speed, a BTCC BMW 3 Series racing car is doing 155 miles an hour at the top end. I've just seen only 5 miles an hour less than that on the speedo of this car, even though we've got an extra half a ton of weight and we're not on slick tyres or on Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2s. That is unbelievable. And I tell you what, there's a lot of road cars where you just don't feel how heavy they are on road, but when you get on a track, you do feel it, and there's just no hiding from it. But this, it's doing an incredible job of feeling far lighter than it is. It's really on its toes. It just feels incredibly agile, and you completely forget you've got an entire estate body style behind you. Surprisingly precise, surprisingly adjustable. I think the place where you perhaps do feel the weight, if I come through this left-hander here, as I let off the throttle mid-corner, and the rear end, it tucks in, or the front end tucks in, the rear end comes round, but you just start to get a slight feeling of heft there. And actually, speaking of weight, one thing I'm not keen on is, I think for track driving, the steering is a little bit too light. I mean, I could steer this around with my little finger, which is excessive, and I feel like I'm being robbed of a bit of connection to the track as well. It does make you wonder a little bit what the front end is doing. I mean, it's a mega front end, really good responsiveness, really good grip, but the steering doesn't always communicate that.
BMW has been through the CS with a fine tooth comb to try and extract more from the existing components. They've been a little vague about the specific changes, but have confirmed that spring rates are stiffer by 7% and 11% front and rear, while electronic damper control, steering, diff and brake settings have also been revised. Rattling over some of Thruxton's curbs at high speed, the composure from the suspension is obvious, and it allows the car to settle far more quickly. The diff also feels like it's more efficient with the power coming out of corners, and helpfully there's greater immediacy and grip from the nose of the car.
The braking is absolutely formidable. I would like a bit more of a linear pedal feel, but it stops so well. And also just to the rear end, sometimes there's a little bit of a snap when you're not expecting it. You've got to stay on top of it. It feels like a very pointy setup on this car. Overall, it's a good balance, but it's very pointy. I mean, BMW says that they've geared the CS towards track driving, and you can absolutely feel that. Out here, it makes a lot of sense. As I said earlier, you forget that you're in an estate car, you forget that you're in something so heavy. You just get really involved with the experience of driving it. You want to push it more, but you don't want to take liberties because it feels like the car that you need to give it some respect. All that power, but when you do hook it up, and when you do get into a nice rhythm, oh, it's so much fun. It absolutely does not feel out of place on the track, and I think that's the biggest compliment you can give it.
As brilliant as it is on track, however, the M3 CS Touring is still an estate. It needs to work as an everyday car. So the big questions are A, can you still do things like get a dog in the boot? And B, does it work on the road at road speeds?
Well, I can answer that first bit straight away, because despite all the performance upgrades on this car, the good news is that the boot is still 500 litres. And that means that my friend Tilly, treat Tilly, can jump in and be happy as the car dog. Loads of space for her. Isn't that right, Tilly?
I can't help but think that Tilly would put up with the ride comfort too. The M3 Competition Touring has always been firm. It doesn't flow as well as a Giulia QV, for example, yet I don't think this CS version feels any more uncomfortable. It is still firm, but crucially, it's usable, and if anything, there's more polish to how it handles bumps and undulations at high speed. The overall effect is that it feels a few % more polished than a regular M3 Competition Touring.
one bit that stands out, but it's just everything together, and the general feeling is of a sharper, more cohesive performance car. It feels like they've had a second bite at it, and they've just managed to get a few things a little bit better. The front end feels absolutely locked in. It gives you incredible confidence, and that light steering suddenly makes a bit more sense on road. It doesn't feel overly light anymore. It feels really nice and precise, and it gives the whole car a lighter feeling.
Away from the track, the engine and gearbox have less opportunity to stretch their legs, and there is perhaps a little less flexibility in the really low revs compared with a regular M3 competition touring. Crucially though, the 3-litre straight 6 still has all the manners and refinement you need, with everything dialed down in the drive modes. It's still a good car to use every day.
There's also a couple of other things that you notice when you're not on track, you're not hammering in laps and you're going a bit slower. And perhaps you take it for granted when you're on track, but this driving position is utterly superb. You sit right where you want to be. It doesn't feel like there's any compromise. And that's not just the CS, that's the M3 full stop. And also, that exhaust note, I said on track it's got a bit more of a rasp, but out on the road, I think you can appreciate the difference even more, especially on startup. It feels far more special.
I spent a few hours on road in the M3 CS Touring, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't wishing that I was still throwing it around Thruxton. As capable as it is on the public road, on track, this car is just brilliant. The changes under the skin don't look especially significant, but the combination of everything has taken an already capable track car and turned it into a bit of a masterpiece. The power, gearbox, body control and balance meant it felt far more at home at Thruxton than any estate car really has any right to.
The big question though, is it worth an extra £36,000? And I think the answer to that lies in if you're going to take this car on track. Because if you do, and you're going to spend lots of time at Thruxton, for example, then 100% it's worth it. It really does make a difference when you're out on circuit. If you're going to spend most of your time on road though, and you don't visit the track, then I think the good thing is that it's not compromised, but it's certainly not worth an extra £36,000. The regular M3 competition touring is brilliant on road, and you're not going to feel that much benefit. I think you'd be better off spending the money on Tilly. Big yawn. So, comes down to track use, yes. Road use, not so much.